I'm Ezelle from the upcoming Lovely to Meet. Congratulations on this
Thanks.
film of yours. Can you start by telling us a little bit about what the story arc of this next film in the franchise that you've come into is, and what can viewers kind of expect from when they watch this?
Yeah, well, it takes place several hundred years after the events of Rise, or the last basic trilogy of the Caesar trilogy. And it follows this time, a very young ape who's very impressionistic and innocent in a way. He lives a very isolated existence and doesn't know much about the world around him. And this movie is very much about his journey, his adventure of discovery and learning about the world around him, about humans, about Caesar himself, what he stood for. And ultimately, he sets out to save his family from this awesomely, tyrannical ruler of Proximus Caesar. And along the way, comes to learn what the world is, and I think it shapes him into what's going to become the character that he ultimately will become, and we get to follow, hopefully, into future movies. So it's a big, fun, installment, and in the great tradition of these movies of Planet of the Apes, where it's hopefully thought-provoking and also spectacle-driven.
And obviously, you've got Owen Teague, who takes on the role of Noah in this. It's quite a big challenge for him to play that. What's that like, getting the best out of him, and then working with this brilliant ensemble cast to bring this narrative to life?
Yeah, it was a hard thing, like how do you follow up what Andy Serkis did? You know what I mean? That was all in our minds. Like, that is going to be the thing to figure out. And lo and behold, I get a tape in from Owen Teague, and I'm like, well, our search is done. It was so obvious that he was the right guy. He just, and come to find out later that he grew up watching King Kong, and that Andy Serkis did. It made him want to get into acting. So it's like a weird, interesting, the movie god shone down on us and just delivered us this kind of like amazing guy who would carry this movie, a young guy carrying this crazy, responsibility on his shoulders, and he bore it like, super confidently and just went forward and did a great job. And then all the other actors kind of came in and they brought their own stuff to it, but it's just fantastic. It turned out just fantastic, I think, with all these actors, what they brought to it, and then of course what it does to convert them into their ape versions. It's pretty miraculous stuff.
And obviously, like you say, converting them into this kind of these characters you use. I mean, the technical advancements with CGI it's stunning in this, and it's so revolutionary. Can you talk a bit about that collaboration with the VFX supervisor Eric Winkwest?
Yeah, Eric's fantastic. I mean, he deserves a big giant pat in the back because we had a lot more apes this time, a lot more like world stuff to do this time, and we had to do it in less time and less money. Basically, it's just the way these things work. And we got to leverage all the experience and all the things that they've learned along the way of making the previous three movies, along with the Avatar movies. We got to take all that great stuff and apply it to our movie, which is just a dream come true that for me personally, to work with like literally the best people in the world at what they do. It's incredible. They deserve a lot of credit and celebrate what all these artists have done over there in New Zealand.
And what is it about creating this kind of fantasy world? Where do you take your inspirations from, and what do you enjoy so much about creating this?
That's a good question. I don't know. I've always been drawn to like movies that are about like sending people off to other worlds. I love movies like when I was a kid, Star Wars, whatever, where I could imagine myself sitting in Hoth or wherever and just imagining my own stories in those places. So I love creating worlds that feel like they exist beyond the frame of the movie screen. They feel like they can continue on, and so we tried very hardly in this one to really set up that kind of epic kind of journey through a world that is like beautiful and amazing, but also like haunting because it's the remains of the human world and what the mistakes we made. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to create.
And is there a kind of particular scene that stands out to you that you feel kind of was most poignant or creative for you, that you feel most proud of when you look back at this?
That's a good question. It's like choosing your babies. I don't think I can. But what's really interesting on this one is that we shot in mostly real locations. We got real trees and real sunlight and all that kind of stuff. It's a very different look this time, this movie. But we also have about 20 to 30 minutes of full CG, 100% CG. Every blade of grass and every tree leaf and bark in the background is all created digitally. And that is hard to do, and not make it feel like it's suddenly a different movie. You know what I mean? I think we've done it. We'll see. But so yeah, there's a lot of that stuff that I take a lot of pride in. I've always wanted to do a big giant Avatar-like thing, and we got a little taste of it in this movie with literally the team that could actually pull that off. You know what I mean? And so so all of it, it's a technical kind of feat of this movie, the sheer craft of it all, was a lot of difficult, hard work by lots of creative people, but it was a lot of fun,
Oh, thank you so much for speaking to me. Congratulations on it. I loved it. Thank you very
awesome.
much.
Thanks very much.
Lovely to meet you.
Yeah, cheers.